All right, friends, welcome back to another exciting episode of Fake Nerds Watch, where we're talking about the greatest show of the year, I think. And I'm so excited to be here to talk with you guys about episodes 4 through 6. We're talking about Aldani, we're talking about the Axe Forgets, and we're talking about the Eye. I'm pumped. I'm here with Ryan James Eliopoulos and Brandon T. McClure and Ben Magnet. This is going to be great, guys.
Did we go to a Jedi temple with a time-traveling machine or what?
Don't tell him. Let's just move on.
What?
Screw you.
Anyway, the Eye, great episode of television. Am I right?
Yeah,
Am I right?
really
Man,
like
guys,
it.
like, I'm so hype about their whole mission. That was incredible.
It was.
Well, that's a 4-week-old joke at this point.
Has it been so long, right?
What are the episodes we're actually talking about?
But 4 through 6, right?
No,
Buddy, we got a
7
whole arc.
no.
We're
7 through 10.
We're an arc system trooper right now.
No, I missed that discussion. We're doing 7 through 10. We're doing announcement, Narkina 5, Nobody's Listening, and One Way Out.
We are 4 podcasters about to talk about 4 episodes about the 4th live-action Star Wars show, and there's only one way out. It's this discussion.
Is this the 4th live-action Star Wars show?
I said it, so it has to be true.
It's not the 4th season, but it is the 4th.
Live action.
Wait, okay,
Yeah.
let's
Mando, Obi, Boba.
Oh my goodness!
yeah.
He don't lie. He don't lie about numbers.
We did it.
There we go. Yo,
We did
Andor was back. Not that it went anywhere, but I'm glad to have you here, Sparkz.
I'm glad to be here. I'm sad I missed the last one. I am Boo Boo the Fool.
It's okay.
But
you still watched it.
life
You
happens.
still watched it, and I'm assuming you enjoyed it.
I did. I enjoyed it a lot. I'm really sad I didn't get to say anything about it, but I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
You want to say quick things about those episodes now?
Yeah.
They are exceptional. To me, it truly defined. Those 3 episodes are like, here's an Andor movie. Enjoy. And then like you just have an Andor movie, and like all of these could be little Andor movies. I'm so thrilled with the fact that I'll say it in relation to like where we are now. The fact that they're willing to totally shift things up in these arcs, that, you know, like we have a more steady through line of like what's going on with the Empire and what's going on with Coruscant with those characters, but Andor will go different places and different things will be happening. This is not the trajectory I would have anticipated for how the character gets involved with the rebellion. I'm so glad it's this complicated and this rich. You would assume at the end of the Eye that it would be, and now he's part of the team,
Yeah.
part of the crew, part of the ship.
I think we all
But
did
that's
it, yeah.
but that's not what happened. He takes off and he gets he goes just away. He just tries to leave. He tries to take his mom.
Yep.
And she doesn't want to go. We're going to talk about that because that's in the first episode of what we're talking about. But like, what a wonderful edge away from the typical story of how someone joins the rebellion in Star Wars.
Yeah.
Well, I talked about it in the last episode, but like what I really appreciate about this era of Star Wars, the shows that we were getting in it, is how they all kind of detail different paths to the rebellion. We know that in Rogue One, that is when all those paths coalesce and become the Rebel Alliance that we are familiar with. But we get the implication in that movie that they were disparate factions that were barely communicating, barely getting along, and they didn't even know if they wanted to be an all-out war. And we're seeing in Andor kind of the behind the scenes of all of that. But we also see in the Bad Batch, in Rebels, and even Obi-Wan with the Path. Like, we see all the different places that rebellion is happening. And in Andor, we get another side of it. And I think that's really cool that they're willing to explore these different sides of what rebellion could mean to different factions and different people.
Ben, were you about to say something?
Oh, no, I wasn't going to say anything. I was just listening and agreeing, but he's absolutely right, because at the end of the Eye, you would think that Andor would be like, cool, I'm part of the rebellion now. But he's like, no, I just want to F off to a beautiful beach planet and just enjoy my life and enjoy the credits I have.
Maybe not the beach planet he's about to go to. Maybe not that one.
Not that one. Not that one.
Maybe choose, I don't know, Scarif. Scarif's a nice place to die.
Totally.
To live out the rest of your life.
Yeah, 5 years later.
Yeah. this show just constantly keeps surprising me about. I mean, this batch of episodes. As much as I was intrigued with Andor's story, I was also intrigued with Mon Mothma. I was also curious about Bix and V and Luthen and all the different storylines that are being told at the same time. It truly does give what I love about the show the most is that it constantly gives you a new perspective on the Star Wars universe. It constantly gives you like the street level, real day, I hate to say it, but adult version of Star Wars where it's like, hey, I mean, yes, we have the movies and television shows where it's like, oh, the Empire is bad. That's why we need to fight back. And this one's like, no, the Empire really sucks. We joke about them being space Nazis. They're space Nazis for a freaking reason.
Yeah,
Andor was literally just walking down the street. He gets picked up by a sand trooper, and he just starts getting is like, "No, you're part of that." And it's like, "Dude, I'm just going to the store."
How messed up is it that he is wanted by the Empire, but nobody knows that that's why he didn't get picked up for that reason. He got picked up because someone he profiled him, and like that. It's so it's such a wild way to tell that story. Because like the Empire has the person they're looking for, they don't know it because he's under a false name, and he got picked up because of profiling. And so like it brings it doesn't feel forced to bring a real world political issue into the Star Wars universe in that way. It feels very natural. It feels very much like this is the next part of Cassian Andor's story, unfortunately, but it is.
The thing that this show is doing that honestly none of the other shows, even Rebels, was a show is about the rebellion. It shows the depths that the rebellion will go to in. The rebels have always been the heroes of Star Wars. When you watch A New Hope, they're not terrorists. They're not doing what Andor's doing. They're heroes with lightsabers and Princess Leia. The rebels are the heroes. Rebellions are not built on just heroes. They're built on spies and they're built on shady shit. And the thing about Star Wars is like the things that they're dealing with are mature, but they're not dealing with it in a mature way, which is, again, is not a negative on the first 40 years of Star Wars, right? It's just the way they've been telling stories for a younger audience. You're telling a story about war. You're telling a story about how people become subjugated by fascists. And at some point in the history of Star Wars, you got to tell the real story of what rebellion's really about. And this is not just the perfect time, but like the optimal time to tell it, not just because of Star Wars and Rogue One, but real world politics too. It is a perfect crescendo of like the show we've always wanted, with the show that the world needs to. It's like, it's incredible, like how just like it feels like a real show dealing with real politics, but it is based in Star Wars. And it's the thing, again, Brandon, I know we've talked about this for years now. We worked at Earth 2 years ago. Why can't we just get a politics show about people talking in a room? That's what the show is. It's literally it.
You have no idea how thrilled I am. And some of the best scenes in this show are just two people talking in a room.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I think bridging off of the point you were just making, what I think is so excellent about it is like, because it is really the rebellion. It is the beginning of the rebellion, but it's essentially pre it being a thing where people are like, well, I want to go join the rebellion.
Yeah.
People don't think
there's not a name to it.
There's not a known quantity of there are people who disagree with the Empire. I could go work with them. I could go.
But they're all different.
There's a lot of different factions, but like what's going on is, them having to, you're getting the like, later down the road, our characters in Rebels, our characters like Luke and Leia and Han get to be heroic for the things they do, because they get to be out at the front lines knowing like, we're the good guys, those are the bad guys. Here we are stepping up to do the thing, and we can do it directly.
Yeah.
But before all that, the way that it all happens is you have to get enough funding and attention to get people to recognize there should be a rebellion, and everything to do that has to be played dirty.
Yeah.
You also bring up a really good point that this series builds to Rogue One in this way, because Cassian in Rogue One is very much the down and dirty kind of rebellion operative. He's murdering people when he meets them. He's very much like the rebellion that the person the rebellion needs at this time in Andor's time. And it's Jyn who, it's Mon Mothma who's trying to kind of rally them around one cause, but it's Jyn who says, at the end of the day, rebellions are built on hope.
Mhm.
You know, that's the main selling point of the line. So it's we're seeing is the kind of like down and dirty grittiness before we get to Rogue One, which is the turning point. It's the turning point for the rebellion when it switched from being we're fighting a dirty war to we're fighting a righteous war.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
because
yeah.
there was a blatant thing that everybody could look at and say, the Death Star is bad.
Yeah.
They blew up an important planet and the Death Star is bad. And so, but I think what it does such a good job of is like Rogue One made it so that like, when you watch A New Hope now, you're like, when they mention like, oh, the people who died to get us this information, like you feel that. You're like, oh man,
Many Boffins died.
Like you really feel like the weight of that. But now you can go all the way back to here and you can go all the way back and incorporate all the pieces that came along the way, like Rebels and all that, and say like, everything that is happening here, everything that Luthen and Mon Mothma are doing, and Cassian is taking part in, and all these other smaller players are taking part in, even the even like, you know, Kino and Melshi over in the prison. All of these things are part of what gets us to Luke being able to be at the place to destroy the Death Star. Like, all of this is the road that makes that possible. All of these lives are the lives that are responsible for leading to the downfall of the Empire. It makes it so it's not just Luke. Like, Luke is the person who blew up the Death Star, but Luke is only there because of everybody up to this point.
That is a brilliant point, because, like, again, the Ringerverse, the best podcast to listen to, that's not us. They bring up a good point of, like, the rebellion is not just Mon Mothma. It's not just, you know, Loy. It's those 200 prisoners who was killed on floor 2 that made that rebellion happen in the prison. It is every person that we do not see on screen that slowly leads to it is building blocks of dead people to get to the point that we need to be, which is a really sad thing to think about, but it is true that rebellions are built not just on hope, but also on the backs of dead people. Mm-hmm. And like we have to keep making progress no matter how sad it is, whether it's leading a rebellion in a prison or Mon Mothma selling her child off to a criminal. Everyone has to suffer to do what you need to do in this war. And that is the thing that the show does so brilliantly, is like everybody has to give up something, whether you're good or bad. Mm-hmm. And like Mon Mothma, like this episode has such a small scene in the last episode, but it's so powerful. Right. Because like what she has like old school power, and like how do criminals deal with that? Well, they take that old school power. Like you don't like it is everyone is in their own prison in different ways, and I love it. And it's just every episode of the show just surprises me with how layered it is, and how this is the biggest onion Disney will ever give us ever. Mm-hmm. I think.
And not to get like too far ahead to the end, because I do want us to talk about the episodes in more detail, but Luthen's monologue at the end of where we're talking about here, his last monologue there, where he's talking about like, I do everything I do knowing I'm damned, and I'm creating a sunrise I'll never see.
I share my dreams with ghosts.
Yes, bro. I share my dreams with ghosts.
Give me a break.
That is the encapsulation of him speaking what we're talking about, which is like knowing these people who fundamentally have to believe not only like that one day it'll be better, but it'll be better because I have to do things that I'm not proud of and I'm not happy about in order to make sure that it can be better. Yeah. So that I can believe in the future. Like it's truly the amount of like, you know, constantly like what we're talking about in our spectrum in the States is right now the idea of abolishing college tuition, right? And there's all the people who are against it, which is like very much like this, I went through it, you should go through it too idea.
Yep.
Not being able to take the like, no, I want better for other people and the future generations. And that is him. That is Luthen saying, I will do something that hurts my soul.
Yeah.
And damages me as a person and is hard and sucks. And I'll know I'm giving up people's lives because I believe in the lives that can be saved down the road.
The greater good.
Right. But you know, I was also gonna say like that's kind of what also Saw represents, right? Like Saw represents that kind of down and dirty rebellion leader that nobody wants to work with by the end of this story, by the end of this journey. People are right now, people are happy to work with Saw. Saw is the person they need. Luthen is doing business with Saw. But where we get to Rogue One, that's what's so important about Saw's death, is because talking about that transition that I was talking about earlier. Saw's death represents that transition from the dirty war to the righteous war.
But even more than that, like Luthen is the in between of Mon Mothma and Saw, mm-hmm. right? Because what he's doing is he's fighting the Empire directly, overtly, and with everything in his pockets where he can, and he doesn't believe in putting his people out unnecessarily. He just believes in having the numbers for the fights he wants to have.
Right.
Sorry about the puppy if you hear her.
That's okay.
That's what he believes in. And Luthen does believe in giving up lives and taking the fight to them, but it has to be calculated. It has to have the biggest possible impact if you're sacrificing people, the biggest possible benefit. And Saul is not being that calculating. Saul just wants to hurt the Empire.
He doesn't see the bigger picture.
He doesn't see the bigger picture of building.
None of these factions see the bigger picture yet, besides Luthen.
Right.
Luthen's the only one who realizes we need to band together or all this will be for nothing.
That's a really good parallel to, again, like, I really like morsels. I really like it when you can like give me some morsels of like interconnectivity. Thematic interconnectivity is something that I'm really into, and the thematic interconnectivity of Andor to Rebels is really interesting to me, because what we're seeing with Luthen, he's keeping everyone kind of apart. He hasn't really. There's not really a concerted effort to bring all the rebel factions together yet.
It's a slow effort.
And Luthen, like, nobody really knows how big this rebellion is, except for maybe Luthen, and so you kind of have this kind of like parallel to what Rebels was doing. Like Rebels, and when they start to build into the rebellion, at first it's just Hera being like, "Hey, we're gonna go do this mission for a friend." And then it starts to be revealed, oh, actually, we're doing this for Jimmy Smits.
Bail.
Bail. Actually, we're doing this for Bail Organa. Actually, we're doing this for Fulcrum. Actually, we're doing this for Mon Mothma. Actually, we're doing this for a rebellion.
Fulcrum and Axis.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, I agree completely. And I think that was what was so, like, again, the show's just willing to zig where, like, from a writing standpoint, it feels like a lot of the Disney Plus shows, specifically Star Wars shows up to this point, the live action ones, have been less like they'll zig and zag away from what you expect. Yeah. And like, for example, when Luthen goes to see Saul Guerrera, you expect him to say, like, we got the funding. Let's get the party together. Let's get it going. But instead he's playing this game of, he's like, I'm not going to admit I have that money. Yeah. Because you need to be a team player. I'll give you those resources. You need to get on board, and I'm not going to tell you I have them until you're on board, because I can't trust you.
Luthen is so smart. Again, like the most recent episode, Luthen's not telling anybody he was involved in Aldhani. Mm-hmm. That is so smart. Despite it happening, like despite him being on like the highest he's ever been for doing a win, he cannot let anyone know that he has any part of it. He is so smart. He's such a smart dude.
Oh. The only thing he wants is to get Cassian. He needs to cut off that tie. That loose end.
Cinta's ready to kill him at any moment. She's outside his mom's house every single day.
Which is like long term, I think that what will come around is he only wants to kill him because he's not on the team, right? Mm-hmm. If Andor changes his mind, if he meets Andor again, post the prison, post having to leave Kino behind, all this kind of stuff, Cassian slowly being changed more and more to want to take part in the fight.
Yeah.
Luthen won't want him dead anymore because he's part of the fight.
Yeah.
But you have to believe in the cause.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I just realized how brilliant the prison arc just clicked for me. There are more of them. There are more of us than there are of them. And once they realize that, they'll be scared. Oh my God.
That's the rebellion.
This show's so good. This show's so good.
I'm sure you noticed that the prison is shaped like the Imperial crest.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Out of it, bro. Like it's so. I'm so mad at Obi-Wan. The more I watch the show, because I'm like, y'all had one chance, and yeah, that end scene with Vader's great. Yeah, sure, but like, oh come on, Andor, what's going on here? It's so good.
I mean, but this show has. I don't like pitting shows against each other, but there is such a really stark contrast moving from Obi-Wan to Andor, and quite frankly, it was a mistake. But putting Obi-Wan anywhere around Andor would have been a mistake.
Let's be fair. Like even beyond the Star Wars, like Disney Plus shows in general, no show has been like this. No show has been this committed to every thought of every frame of every moment and making every piece of it all speak in unison thematically and truly clearly tell a story and a vision in a way that films do.
Yeah.
And like epic television shows do. None of them have met that standard.
It's not TV.
None of them.
HBO.
Like I like a lot of the Disney Plus shows, but none of them have lived up to this level.
I would say Mandalorian got close in a few instances, but every time I'm watching Andor, it just blows Mandalorian.
See, here's the thing. I agree with you with the first season, and like I said, I was not as hot on the second season as a lot of people were. A lot of people really liked the second season. I did not. I thought the second season was fine to good. I do think the first season of Andor is really of Mandalorian is really good, and I still remember it being very good. But and also, I'll give you that Mandalorian season 1 did get close because it did feel like we were kind of back in that Star Wars world, but something happened with Mandalorian, and I'm not quite sure what it was, story wise, production wise, whatever it was, but there is just something so very different about Andor's approach to storytelling. I mean, someone really reductively put this well, and I will acknowledge that as a really reductive way of looking at a lot of things, but it's pretty much spot on that when a lot of people are approached with Star Wars shows, when Jon Favreau specifically is approached with a Star Wars show, he wants to do, I want to play with my action figures. I want to be able to play with my action figures. There's nothing wrong with that. You know, Star Wars is an action figure driven franchise. It is. It's built on merchandise.
Yeah.
But the way Tony Gilroy approached Star Wars was as a political drama, and no one has ever approached Star Wars like that. Well, maybe not no one, but there's very few people have.
To your point, I think you're totally right about that. I think Mandalorian is at a disadvantage to ever be on Andor's level because its main character can't show his face most of the time. That's not a huge knock, but a lot of the depth of something that's happening in a scene relies on who's the side player in the story.
I think Grogu
for Mandalorian, well. and Grogu's a little bit of a crutch.
Yeah.
And as long as those two things are existing, like it kind of can't go where Andor goes because Andor is about all these interpersonal relationships, and it's very like the other thing is that Andor is the first one that feels like a real television show. It feels like it has maximized its entire time span to say every character is going to be explored. All of these relationships and all of these threads are going to be laid out in full. You're not going to feel like you're missing beats. You're not going to feel like you're being left out of the loop on something. Yeah. You are being given all of this wonderful material.
Mandalorian, like I really like Mandalorian seasons 1 and 2, but like Mandalorian is really good, like blockbuster filmmaking. That doesn't always mean that blockbuster filmmaking has a lot of depth. It just means it's really entertaining, right? Yeah. And that's not a negative. Not everything has to be Andor. I don't want everything to be Andor because that'd be soul crushing.
Right.
But the fact that it took this long to even like for them to even try something like this, it's like it could have been done. Like it's so.
But even so, like I do want to bounce back and like. Even so, if this were the first show out the gate, like if Mandalorian wasn't and this was, the bar would be set far too high. We wouldn't accept anything else.
It's true. It's true.
It's unfortunate, like because it's part of the conversation we're having at this moment. Like it's unfortunate that Book of Boba Fett and Obi-Wan Kenobi, regardless of how I might feel about them, they left enough bad taste in mouths that people aren't coming out for Andor.
Yeah,
like they just aren't, and it shouldn't be that way. Like those things shouldn't have thudded that hard that Andor can't find a big enough audience. Which
I have a friend. I have a friend, very good friend. Love this man to death. I asked him, it's like, are you watching Andor? And he said, no, I have no interest in that because I didn't really like Rogue One. I don't really care about Cassian Andor, and I didn't like Obi-Wan. And like that, all of that is fair.
Yeah.
But you are missing the best Star Wars show ever made.
Yeah. It is such a bummer because, like, I know we have a similar journalist we really like online. She's like, I'm not watching the Laser Sword show, and everyone's like, I know people keep saying this, but this is the one. Like, there are no laser shows. There's no laser swords. This is just a TV show. Yeah. But people are so burnt. Even Mandalorian, even though we like Mandalorian, there are people who don't like Mandalorian because it's not different enough for them, and I get that. Like, it is a shame that this has lower audience reception than Tales of the Jedi, which just came out. More people are watching that show than watching Andor, and Andor is almost done. And I'm like, man, I'm not worried about them critically or season 2 or anything because we're getting that second season. But like, people gotta watch this if we want more of this stuff.
I am confident we're still gonna get season 2.
No, yeah. I just mean more like.
So like, but I hear you. I am confident that we're going to see a surge once season 1 is finished. I think there are people who are going to decide, all right, I'll do it once now that it's all out. Or something will happen with the last episode or episodes that will generate enough internet conversation that people are like, all right, I gotta check that out. I will say that, like, it's not a dig. and I don't think it's a negative. It is just a fact. Andor does have a little bit of a hurdle to get into because I don't think you can just get into it with episode 1. I think you do have to watch the full first.
I agree. I think the first episode is not the best onboarding one. Yeah.
I was even talking with my girlfriend last night, and I was telling her, I was like, "Hey, Andor is really, really good." She's like, "Really?" Because I saw the first episode. Like, just keep going. Just keep going. Trust me, it gets so much better. You have to
watch the whole arc. I am very glad that they at least did know that and dropped the first 3 when the show started, because that was very much, they knew what was going on. They knew, like, no, you need the whole arc to get what this show is. You can't just do a single episode. Unfortunately, that does make onboarding onto the show very difficult for people, especially people who are already burnt out on Disney Plus shows or Star Wars shows.
Yeah.
Ben, you've been trying to say something for a while. I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say that to me, it still amazes me how the best Star Wars show is a show that all of us were kind of like, when we first heard about it, when it was coming out. It's like, really, that one side character from that really good Rogue One movie? I don't know.
They announced it so long ago, and it took so long to make. We were all kind of like, what's going on with this thing?
Yeah. Right. Now it's like, never mind. I'm happy.
I'm good. Take last show.
Take all the time in the world.
Daredevil's going to be a 10-month shoot in New York. Take your time, baby. Hell yeah.
Ben, you bring up an excellent point, because like it is the thing I was thinking about when I'm talking about at Andor with its arcs and him ending up in the prison and all this kind of stuff has not been what I've expected. The show I feared or anticipated when they announced Andor is just Diego Luna and K2SO doing rebel adventures. Just rebels, but with them, essentially. And I'm like, there's nothing wrong with that. That's fine. I just think we need more. This is more. This is not at all the show I expected it would be. I would have assumed after episode 3 that Diego was just Diego Luna Cassian was just part of the rebellion.
Yep.
And I'm wrong.
Yep.
And I'm very pleased to be wrong, that it's so much more complex, because we are getting so much more richness from what's happening in the world of Star Wars at this time.
Yeah. After episode, is it the beach one? Is it episode 7?
Yeah.
So episode, he meets a K2SO robot, right? And any other show would have been, oh, this is where he meets that robot, and now this is where they become friends. No. He gets almost strangled by a K2SO robot, and then you don't see him again. Now he has in the back of his mind, he hates these robots, right? So now we're gonna have an even better arc when he does eventually meet K2SO. And I'm like, man, they're not taking any easy route at all. Like, all these character arcs are taking such a long time, and it's so well earned. Like, when K2SO finally does show up, it's gonna feel earned instead of like, oh, there he is. Of course he shows up. It's an Andor show.
Yeah,
like, I love it.
I can legitimately see a world, because we know that season 2 will have time jumps, and a lot of time jumps. They've told us this. I could see a world where we do a time jump and he's just got K2SO. We don't see them meet. It's just, and like, I'm okay with that personally. Like, I don't need to see the origin of K2SO. There's a comic book if you want that. But like, this level of storytelling, and then we jump a year later. We have a really good arc in season 2. Jump a year later, K2SO is there. In that time, he met K2SO. Cool.
It might not be how they met, but it might be the first time that they go on mission together.
Yeah.
And how he learns to trust him.
I think that is important.
And I think that is more maybe the key.
Because he almost gets killed by one of those guys. He can't just be BFF.
Because like how he meets him might just be like, he's reprogrammed, and then he's just there, and they say like, use the droid. I really do want to get into the episodes, but I do want to say real quick, like, this is not a show where I have found myself like desiring cameos. We've all kind of been in the place where we're like, please don't rely on that crutch kind of thing. Having Melshi show up was wonderful. What a brilliant cameo. I want more cameos like that. But I did think, and I told Ryan about it, I did think of one person.
Melshi's in Rogue One.
Oh my god.
Oh yeah, Melshi, who's running with Andor at the end of episode 10, he's in Rogue One.
Yeah.
Oh, you're right.
Andor shouts, "Nobody's listening." He says that to Jyn in Rogue One as well.
That's right. Okay. I'm with you.
Yeah. So
it's good shit.
Cameos like that are wonderful. I hope we get more of them. But there is one that I thought of while I was with Ryan that I want to bring to you guys. That I'm like, I would love it. I would love it. I think it would be great. Mon Mothma looking for like a kind of rallying of people to hush be supportive of the cause. I would love a single scene Terrence Stamp cameo as the former Chancellor
Oh shit!
What's that fool doing after he got deposed? Who knows?
Oh shit!
as like a face to get people on board for representing the Republic before.
Yeah, I'm actually really surprised we haven't seen Jimmy Smits at this point.
I'm glad they've held him back. I think part of that is the Obi-Wan thing. They wanted to stay away from that. I wouldn't be surprised if part of either the end of season 1 or the beginning of season 2 is him and Mon Mothma really connecting for the first time.
We know there's a year time jump into season 2, and we know they're going to Yavin. So I assume season 2 is going to also be more cameo heavy, but in a good way that we want. Because again, the rebellion is coming together. Like characters are going to meet. So I fully expect Mr. Smits, Bail Organa to show up much more in season 2.
And the thing about cameo driven things is like it's got to make sense in service of the story. Like I think, for example, Tamar Morrison as the 501st Clone Trooper in Obi-Wan, that's a good cameo. That serves the story. That was interesting. I really liked that.
Yeah.
In this, people like Hera, Admiral Raddus. Now I really want Terrence Stamp all of a sudden. Thanks. Saw Gerrera. Jimmy Smits, those people, they make sense to show up in the show. They are around this area. They are working with the rebellion. They know Cassian Andor. We know this from Rogue One. So seeing those characters show up when we do go to Yavin, when we do our time jumps in season 2, when we are building to Rogue One, that makes a lot of sense to me. And I can see how those could serve as a story. And we could see very interesting ways that the characters could, that Tony Gilroy and the writers of this show could take those characters.
Yeah. And we know Rebels takes place around the same time. And we know that there is a Ahsoka show with casted Rebel characters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So like, this is perfect synergy. Like Disney has never had a better opportunity than to do really good cameos.
I will say, like, I don't want to get a cameo heavy second season. I will say that.
Yeah.
However, I do want someone from Rebels to show up.
It just makes sense.
Because I want to feel that sense of like, these things are happening at the same time and these things are connected and these things are important. I want that sensibility between it, not just like, oh, I saw Chopper in the corner of the frame in Rogue One.
Yeah.
But I mean, or
like,
Hera's ship. Like, I want to feel
the Rebels,
the connection.
The Rebels crew, like they are in the fight in Rogue One. So like it only makes sense for them to just show up, even if it's like off screen, even if it's just a mention of a name. That's what I love more than anything. If you just mention someone's name, I'll be happy, honestly. Yeah. It just means they do exist in this world. And like for a show like this, again, like they say Palpatine every episode. I'm like, he's totally the shadow of Palpatine's there with him never being there.
Right.
And like the show can totally do stuff like that.
The Phantom Menace. I mentioned it offhandedly, but apparently I really want it because I've been thinking about it like since I mentioned it. Admiral Raddus would be incredible. I really want to see Admiral Raddus in the show.
I 100% fully expect like the Rogue One to Rogue One happening in those final episodes. Like I 100% think like it won't be as, I don't think it'll be super crazy as Disney expects, but I fully expect a Raddus. I fully expect like, would Galen Erso show up at all? Would Jyn Erso's dad? Or is he?
Because he would be living on the planet with his daughter. And he's immediately recaptured by the Empire.
Okay, I'm just making sure. I'm just saying, like, I can see other like Orson Krennic. I can guarantee he can show up for a scene.
Oh, I'd love to see Bindo in this.
He's an Imperial asshole, right? Like, stuff's gonna get so bad for the ISB. Either Deidre Miro's gonna mess up, or she's gonna do so good she gets the attention of the people upstairs.
Oh, speaking of really good cameos, there's Admiral Wolf, right? Who's from A New Hope. He's one of the mustache dude.
So our lead guy Pendergast, he has a guy above him who has the mustache. He's like, I'm auditioning. He is from A New Hope. He is one of the dudes where Vader chokes that one dude. Like that is a beautiful cameo because again, that's not a big character, but he's someone who would be there. But again, and that's the kind of shit that's great.
That goes back to what I think we're all really enjoying about the show. What I really enjoy about the show is that we're seeing these kind of cameos that aren't like, oh look, it's the Leo DiCaprio give of like, oh look, that's who that is. It is a character who serves as a story. Honestly, if we were in a world where Peter Cushing was alive, I would 100% believe that Grand Moff Tarkin could just walk through a door and he would be very much a very similar cameo like that. But we don't live in that world, unfortunately.
I told him that, what's her name? The Imperial lady?
Oh, Miro. Deidre Miro.
Deidre Miro. She has an assistant guy who I'm like, this guy has seen Tarkin and models his work after him because he's got like the exact same hair and everything. I'm like, this is a guy who idolizes Tarkin.
The guy who's like, he's clean shaven. Look at me. Pay attention to me. He's clean shaven.
Yeah. That dude definitely knows Tarkin and is like, okay, Tarkin's like ideal Imperial role model.
He's got such good cheekbones.
And there's been a hint behind the scenes about what they're building in that prison, the Death Star. So like we're seeing what we know to be important people, important events in the Empire. Admiral Wolf, Tarkin is overseeing. I don't think at this point Tarkin is overseeing the Death Star, but Mendo is.
He takes it from Krennic in Rogue One.
Yeah, so Krennic could very well show up somewhere, and we can get hints that that we're seeing Cassian go through around because Palpatine kept the Death Star secret, right? He kept the Death Star secret from the Imperial Senate, so we can see Cassian kind of come around the Death Star without putting the pieces together that this is what is happening, that they are building the Death Star.
Yeah. That'd be so brilliant if let's say he doesn't even learn what he's building until way later into the show or something. Like, yeah, you were helping build that thing. And then he's the one who helps end up destroying it in the end. I'm like, man, that's poetry, George. Are you watching the show? Oh, it's so good. We gotta talk about these episodes.
We gotta talk
Hold
about
on.
it, yeah.
George Lucas plays a senator in Revenge of the Sith. What if he showed up in this show?
It's everything I wanted.
All right, anyway. Yeah, so let's talk about these episodes. 30 minutes into this episode. Let's talk.
That's a good ass show, bro.
Before we even get there, this is where he goes back to Ferrix. He goes back and he tries to see his mom. I'm so glad we got Fiona Shaw back on the show. I was worried we weren't going to see her anymore. She's wonderful.
Oh my God.
I love her so
He inspires her without knowing it. It's so beautiful and sad.
Right, that she's inspired by the Aldani thing, and he's also not saying that was me.
But he has money
kind
now.
of thing, and she's completely dedicated to the rebellion because they do such a good job. This is the episode where we get some of the imagery of when he was young and his dad
Clem.
His dad was just trying to stop people from Clem, who he fakes his name after.
Yeah,
his dad Clem was trying to stop people from throwing stuff at the stormtroopers, and that he becomes one of the people blamed for it, gets hung.
Just like him in this episode, he gets taken for not doing anything either.
Clone troopers.
Clone troopers every time. Woo! Yeah. Great detail.
Yeah.
Really good grounding emotional story. It's a good we were talking about this. The reason we're doing this is because we wanted to cover a whole arc, and the prison arc was not done at episode 9. 7 is kind of like a bridge episode between the previous arc and this one, but I think it's such a good and important one that is so focused on Cassian kind of feeling everything slip away from him. And the way that his conversation with Bix is really good, but his conversations with his mom are so important and foundational. And him being directly confronted with the idea of someone who's passionate about rebellion, someone he cares about, and him still turning away from it, rather focus on himself still, that this is not his fight. I think it's such an important character beat because again, the predicted thing is that after Aldani is the moment where he changes, and it's still not enough. It's still not enough for Cassian to say, I believe in this cause, I believe in the fight. Even after the kid dies and wants to give him his book, it's still not enough.
Yeah. I saw people online, the wrong people, saying I don't understand, how's Cassie not a rebel yet? I'm like, bro, it's an arc, baby. That would be the simple answer if he was immediately just gung-ho already like that.
But again, it's not because Cassian needed a way out, right? Cassian's not looking at what Luthen is giving him as an entry into the rebellion. He's looking at it as a job.
As a way out.
And he never ever sees it as anything but, hey, I'm here to do a job. And so so for him, he did his job, he got his money, he's out. He was looking for a way out because he already screwed up. So he needed a way out. He got that way out. He got a job. He got money. So now he's coming back to get the people he cares about out. That's the only reason why he did it. He didn't do it to be indoctrinated into the rebellion. So he has such a much further way to go because he's not looking to fight the Empire. He is looking for a way away. He is looking to get away from the Empire, to get away from everything.
Yes. If anything, he's regressed into, I want nothing to do with the Empire after fighting. Yeah. I want to leave and go to the furthest place. And again, the conversation he has with his mom is so beautiful because she's like, no matter where I move, they've built their prison. Yeah. Their prison is in my mind. No matter where I go, you can't stay and I can't leave.
Oh, such a good show.
It's so powerful. And the stuff that happens with his mom later, she is blazingly just walking in front of stormtroopers like it's no big deal. She's trying to uncover stuff under a hotel to help the rebellion that's not even there yet. She is so indoctrinated from what he did, he doesn't even realize it. It's so, or he realizes it, but like she doesn't know, and it's just like, man, that is some sad storytelling.
I'm gonna make the comment section sing. It's much like The Last Jedi. When Luke sacrifices himself at the end of The Last Jedi to inspire hope in the galaxy, Andor has done it in a very similar way. What he was a part of has inspired hope and rebellion within the galaxy, not as widespread, but he did it without intending to. And he can't believe that he did it.
Yeah.
And
importantly, like, it's not that he's inspired it. He's also, like, as Luthen has said, he made the Empire grip tighter to make more rebellions or make more rebels. Because what happens is that they get stricter laws. They are now willing to imprison people for lighter sentences and for longer, and then ultimately decide we're just going to keep them forever. We're not going to let them go. And that people don't know that they're being imprisoned like that. But that's the Empire reacting to Aldhani, because there are people who are finding out about Aldhani and saying, oh, the Empire can be hurt. And there are other people who are in the Empire who are saying, so now we got to like really tighten the noose on everyone.
What does Luthen say? They've been choking us for so long. We don't even look. We don't even notice it anymore. We needed them to choke harder.
Yeah. And Deidre Miro, who is so good at her job, realizes this is not the right move. We are playing right into their hands. We are only going to make them stronger and fight harder.
But they make the act anyway.
Yeah, and like her thing, like again, bouncing around real quick, man. Like her thing when she talks to Bix, she's like, all these other people, they lay such a huge net. You know what I do? I actually try at my job. I don't just do the thing that they tell me to do. I actually work at it. That's why I win. And her arc is so scary, and I'm so worried about all my characters because she is really good at her job, and that's not something the Imperials are normally good at.
Yeah.
She's like her own little detective Darth Vader going on, and I love it. Spiciest her and her little boy.
Say what you're gonna say, Ben, because I have a point on that.
One of the best lines that Luthen said is "Oppression breeds more rebellion."
Mm-hmm.
So when like the scene with him and Moth Mothma in his store about how she's like, this is gonna hurt so many people, and he's like, yeah, that's the point. The more people get hurt, the more people want to rise up. The more people rise up, the weaker the Empire becomes. It's like one of those, in order to do the grand thing, I have to do the horrible thing. I forgot what allegory that is, or phrase, or saying, or whatever.
The many outweigh the needs of the few.
Yeah, it's that. So I just love it. I love that because while I'm watching this as like a citizen, I'm on the side of Mon because I don't want people to get hurt. I don't want people to get in prison for no reason. But then when Luthen says that, I was like, oh damn, he's right. I can't argue with that.
That's so interesting because I'm like 100% on Luthen's side. I'm absolutely like, yes, make them strangle the people so that we get more rebellion. Anyway, but like what I really like about what we're talking about, just kind of bouncing off of that again with Deja is that they are they're looking at it like, what does Andor say in the first episode? They all think they're safe, and they're sitting up there and fat and safe in their high tower. Like what we're seeing, the Empire won.
Yeah,
they're it. They're the government. They can do whatever they want. Palpatine knows this. He has a Senate, but he doesn't need them. At this point, he doesn't need the Senate. That's why he wants the Death Star.
Half the Senate seems to know that too.
Yeah, they don't care.
Yeah.
He's got the Senate only as a placeholder to keep the systems in line. Once the Death Star is built, he doesn't give a shit. He's already got his governors around the systems. He doesn't care. And that
importantly, just real quick interjecting on that, because like importantly, he won't sit in on Senate meetings. He's got the other guy, the blue guy with the two horns. That's the guy who's sitting in the chancellor's seat in the middle.
I wish we saw him. I wish we saw him.
Me too. I thought we saw him once too. But like so what I really like about it is, it talks about like it speaks to the Death Star itself, because that's why the Empire ended up losing in A New Hope initially, because they knew for certain that they were the top power. Nobody could beat them. Nobody was going to fight them. The rebellion, who cares about the rebellion? We got the Death Star. Yeah. Tarkin didn't leave the Death Star when they were said, hey, there's a chance that this whole thing can explode if this guy does this. And he's like, he's not going to do this. We're the Empire. We have the Death Star. Just shoot them. And so like what we're seeing is just that. And I really like seeing the Empire like that. And so going back to, but the point is, what I really like about Deja is that the Empire doesn't like people who do their jobs. because they don't want to admit that there are cracks in their perfect empire. And Deja is in a very dangerous position, not just for our rebellion characters, the people we like, but for her herself. Because if she is too good at her job, the empire will come down on her, and she will be stabbed in the back for seeing the cracks within her empire.
Penthagast even says it to her when he's walking down a hallway after praising
Watch your
her.
back.
Watch your back, because like she's doing the job better than other Imperials, and they're all about backstabbing.
Right.
Yep.
And I really like it too, because like you got Penthagast, and he's this person who's constantly like saying to her, like, he's like, this is great, make sure you're right, because the second your information doesn't check out, it's over. It's over. And I think that's where we're heading, right? Like long term in the Andor show for her and for our other guy who is having the sub relationship with her.
Did you mean that deliberately?
Yes, I did. That's a Dom sub. He's replacing his mommy with a new mommy.
I cannot wait to talk about Cyril Karn.
Anyway, those two, I do think that their story ends in tragedy with the Empire, not with the rebels. I think that the way that it ends for them is that they try to outmaneuver, outcatch the rebellion somewhere. It doesn't go the way that it's supposed to, and they take the fall. Yeah. I'm sure that's where their story ends.
You know, it parallels Krennic's story. Like Krennic knew that the Death Star wasn't the foolproof weapon that Tarkin thought it was, but he wanted it to be. He knew that it could be, but Tarkin was like, "Oh, it's done. Let's go." And Krennic was killed for his obsession trying to stop these rebels on Scarif. Like, really, that's what it was. Krennic was in a very similar position as Deja. Krennic's not as competent as Deja, but he was in a similar position, and he was killed for it.
All right, so I couldn't find a picture of him in the show, but we see this guy on Ferrix. On Ferrix, looking at Cinta in episode 10 in a hood. Do you guys recognize this guy from the Imperial ISB?
No.
Yeah, so this guy in episode 10 shows up for a brief second watching Cinta watch Andor's house. He's an Imperial. He's spying on Cinta. Nobody else is catching this because, like, it's not hard to tell, but somebody on Twitter was like, yo, this is the guy from the ISB who stands in the back and just watches everyone. So we got spies watching spies watching spies. Yeah.
I love spies. I love spies.
Spicy.
I love Mon Mothma.
Yeah.
I love Mon Mothma.
I love everybody. Everyone's in their own prison, whether it's a real prison, a political prison, or a fuel depot prison with Cyril Karn, right? I love it.
Or a marriage prison.
Yeah, it's just awful. She is. I love that we're seeing her arc from being she's a good person, who a liberal governor, who is still like left leaning, won't do what she needs to do to be on a rebel, right? We are saying like, oh, we got to pass laws to get this stuff, like what you're supposed to do. We can't fight the law with violence. We got to do it through the Senate, and that's not going to work. And she knows it.
Because she commits herself to constantly going in the Senate, constantly putting out these ideas for the things that they should do.
She's like,
if everybody keeps thinking this is all I'm doing and I keep failing at it, they won't catch on to what I'm really up to.
And the rebellion.
But I also really like that we're seeing Mon Mothma. Like, what we're seeing Mon Mothma do is also start to lose faith in the Senate. She hasn't quite lost faith that the Senate can have some purpose, but we know that's where she goes. We know that she does leave the Senate because of rebels. Rebels makes this whole decree, and that she leaves
no family,
and she has no family. So like what I think is what I really like seeing of Mon Mothma is that we're seeing her and Bail Organa had a similar arc, as we know. They thought that the Senate could still work. That it wasn't just a placeholder relic of the old ways of the old Republic. They thought that it could work, but eventually they both realized there was no way that the Senate could ever have any power ever, and the rebellion is the only way. And I like seeing Mon Mothma struggle with the idea that she, in the back of her mind, she knows that Luthen is right. She knows that the rebellion is the only way to go. And she can't admit it to herself because she can't admit that the Senate has become that kind of glorified placeholder that Palpatine sees it as.
That scene where they're talking about how, like, after Aldhani, and she's like, "Did you do this? Did we really do this?" Like, and Luthen's like, we can't hide forever. Like we have to make moves, or else everything we've done for this long will be for literally for nothing. Like we have to make progress. I know that scares you, but you have to be a part of it. You did a vow.
And you know what's great? That's what she says to the rebel leaders in Rogue One. We can't just sit on the sidelines anymore. We have to declare open war. And everyone in the Rebel Alliance is saying, no, we can't do that. We can't go to open war. And she's like, yes, we have to. We cannot sit on the sidelines anymore.
We did not bring this up, and this is a very small detail that's incredible. I don't think live action Star Wars has ever used actual timeline 5 BBY before. I don't think I've ever seen in live action they say BBY.
Mm-hmm.
So like at the start of the show, it's like before the Battle of Yavin, because that's where the Death Star gets blown up, and that's that the rebellion is here now, right? So like that is so cool that it's not a big deal, but like in every single thing I've ever seen, like they've never actually mentioned like the fake BBY thing that's been in Legends forever. Like no, they brought in a real timeline thing. That's so silly.
I also want to just bring up how great it is that the actor who plays Mon Mothma, real quickly, I'm going to look it up. Genevieve O'Reilly, I believe it is. She was cast as Mon Mothma in Star Wars Revenge of the Sith, cut from that movie, and then showed up again in Rogue One as that character. And that was like, oh, that's cool, that's cute, fun. And now she gets this juicy role where she can act her ass off. Genevieve O'Reilly, yes. I think that is so wonderful happenstance that just worked out for her, that she finally gets to have this like definitive Mon Mothma role.
Yeah, yeah. It's really nice, not just for the actor, but like for that character too, because like it would have been weird to do a whole rebellion thing and not have Mon Mothma, right? So like to have her actually be as important as she is in the canon, in the story, and bring back the actor that quote unquote made her famous in a way. Because again, they could have recasted someone more famous, like as they often do in these types.
I mean, Genevieve O'Reilly is a recast, because Mon Mothma in Return of the Jedi is obviously not Genevieve O'Reilly.
Yeah, because that's an old movie. Yeah.
So I really appreciate that they kind of kept that actor around from a deleted scene. And by the way, the deleted scenes of Revenge of the Sith are really cool. I highly recommend you check out Ken Knapsack's Rebellion video about them. It's really good. I also really like that what we're seeing with Mon Mothma this was in expanded materials when Force Awakens is coming out, and technically they are canon until they're not. But Mon Mothma does become Chancellor of the New Republic when it's formed. And I think that's real. I think it's really cool that we're seeing her political aspirations. We're not just seeing like vagaries. We're seeing actually what she stands for, what she wants, that she does care, but not just the Chandrilan people where she's from, about the people of the Empire, of the Old Republic. She still cares about what the Old Republic stood for. Yeah. And she wants that, and she wants the Empire to fail. And I really appreciate that what we're seeing. We could conceivably see that character now as the Chancellor of the New Republic, and not just a cool, oh, that was a cool way, nod to the fans way, but as this is a really good character growth progression way.
Absolutely, yeah. It's really interesting and cool to see like fake culture show up. Like there's so much Chandrilan culture in the show that as far as I know, probably maybe existed in the books, never existed in live action or animated form or anything like that. But like,
I don't even think her home planet was ever named in live action.
Yeah. Like I hate to bring up like Game of Thrones, but like I didn't expect like political marriage intrigue to be on the show. That's not something I expected about marrying off your underage children, because that's Chandrilan, that's Chandrilan customs, right? Mm-hmm. That scene where Mon Mothma is slowly just like getting deeper and deeper into the shady parts of the rebellion is now at a point where she's working with like the world's biggest gangster, the world's biggest mobster, to sell her 13-year-old child off for marriage. That's how far she is now sunk.
Did anyone else?
That is insane to me that we're doing this in a Star Wars show.
Did anyone else kind of hope that it was a Hutt when they first talked about this person?
No, I'll be honest with you. I thought about it and I really didn't want it to be, mostly because it didn't feel right. The Hutts run their business in the Outer Rim. And you would be dealing with someone who deals with the banking system in the center. So that wouldn't be Hutts. And I also was like, we can have people who are slimy gangsters that aren't Hutts.
Oh, Ryan actually brought up a good point. He is mentioned to be Chandrillan, which I
Yeah,
did
that's
not
what
catch. I did not catch the first time.
No, yeah, that's why like the whole marriage thing is because like I'm from Chandrilla. I love coming to Coruscant. Maybe I'll get invited more and more if our children are married or whatever. And we only get 5 minutes with Davos, but like immediately you know who that guy is. Like he has so many great lines of like, oh, how much do you want me to pay you for the service? Money means nothing to me at this point. I'm beyond rich. Right. I am beyond money. I don't care about it anymore.
Tay, is that his name? Tay?
Yeah, Tay Colma.
Yeah. The scene when they are talking to each other and she's trying to gauge like, hey, if I were to tell you that I'm a rebel, would you be okay with that? Like, not in so many words. Like she's talking around all this and he's kind of picking up what she's putting down. She's not, but he's kind of like still a little lost. And then she's like, actually, you freed me, and says what this is. Because he's like, actually, I don't like because he says like blatantly, oh, you wouldn't like my politics anymore. And she's like, actually.
He says it very directly before she starts playing coy, where he's like, I
might be
most
too
people
liberal.
wouldn't care about my politics these days. I have no love for the Empire.
Honey, you have no idea.
And she's just like sitting there like, oh, I want to say it, but I can't say it, but I gotta say it.
And she's working around the room, and you're seeing all the other senators in the room, and the scene. It's a brilliantly staged scene, and with such wonderful dialogue. I was enraptured by it. It might be my favorite scene in the show.
Yeah. So this arc. Tony Gilroy is the showrunner. He's getting a lot of acclaim. We have to give praise to Toby Haynes, who is director of half of these episodes. He directed half of Andor. And this arc specifically is written by Bo Williamson, who is the creator of House of Cards, where Kevin Spacey aside, incredible show, incredible political drama. Really well written. So like the fact that he came and he just gets to write that shit for Star Wars, we're blessed. Hashtag blessed. Bo Williamson is an incredible writer. It's all the A plot, the B plot, the C plot, the D plot, any plot that's happening on Andor, I want to watch. If it was a whole episode just on Bix and what's going on, I'd be happy with it. Whole arc on Cyril, I'd be happy with it. I like every character is getting their just dues. Nobody is not important in the show.
You're right. You're absolutely right about that. Like, there is never a moment when we do a cut to the B plot or the C plot where I lament that we're not seeing the A plot. And there have been times like I watched Star Trek Discovery. I've talked about my issue of Star Trek Discovery, but quite frankly, many times during this most recent season, when they would cut to the B plot, I just wouldn't care. Mm-hmm. I just don't care about the B plot that they're doing, and it's so great to be in a place where you can go to any plot in any episode, and I am just as invested as any other.
Right.
And it's all whether like it's all interconnected, whether it's in big points or small points at this point. Because like it's all going to lead up into again that season 2 finale. But like what Deidre's doing, what Cyril's doing, it's all feeding into Andor. What Andor's doing is literally feeding into the rebellion. Mon Mothma feeding into the rebellion. They're all going towards the same thing. It's exciting. It's like every episode just gets like more and more exciting because like we know where it's building to, but like there's still 5 years to go. Like, man, when we saw that prison sentence, Rogue One happens in 5 years. Andor gets a 6-year prison sentence. Yeah. We know that's not the trajectory of his life. So we know there's a prison escape about to happen.
He's getting out, but like how it's the kind of like he talked about it was like we're all living a prequel.
Yeah.
We know where he goes, but it's the how that's important.
Yeah. And I never would have expected that Andy Serkis gives like the performance of his lifetime in an arc of a Star Wars TV show.
Andy
like
Serkis
it's wild. It's insane.
Andy Serkis was so great in these episodes.
I want to highlight real quickly before we get into Andy Serkis that I think all of the performances are great. I think Stellan Skarsgård is acting his ass off in this show. But Andy Serkis was such a surprise to see in this show. I had no idea he was in it. Yeah. And whenever Andy Serkis can do live action, I think he's always great. I think he's a lot of fun. He's a great actor. But like, he's been like Tesla's assistant in The Prestige or like Claw in Black Panther. And I like both those roles. I like both those performances, but there's been nothing that I think have like defined his performance as an actor until now. Like, I really think that this was his best role I have seen him do.
I don't know if we're giving full credit to his performance in the Planet of the Apes films. Even though those are through motion capture.
Live action, I think. Though.
You're absolutely correct. You're absolutely correct. I deliberately didn't mention his performance capture work.
Sure.
When we bring that in, I do think Gollum and Caesar are incredible roles that he is incredible in.
No, when he's in
and
live
I think they
action-
are, and I think they are on par with what we're seeing in Andor. But there is a difference because we haven't seen him as a person. We haven't seen him in live action as a person perform like this before.
I mean, his role in King Kong as the cook is legendary.
Right.
I mean, so yeah, no, I agree with you, Brandon. Like, he's a tremendous actor, and like he's for 20 years he's done great things, but like I don't know if I've seen him do live action work like this.
I'll be right back. I gotta take
That's
this.
what I mean. That's what I mean. Like, obviously Gollum is incredible, and Caesar's incredible. Like, we didn't expect that the guy who played Snoke to show up in Star Wars and give a great performance.
Yeah,
is what I think is what we're coming from.
Right.
Yeah. We had absolutely no idea. Even when I saw Andy Serkis, I was like, wait a minute, but you were already in a Star Wars thing. But as I'm watching him in this one, I'm like, this is great. Because I like when you first show up, I get scared that he's like, oh, he's gonna be like the hard ass. He's gonna be the guy that everyone hates. But it's like, no, he's kind of like one of the guys. I mean, yeah, he's in a place of authority, but it's not authority where he abuses it. And then later when Andor was talking to him, it was like, how many guards? And after the death of the old man, Olaf, and then when they're walking away, he's like, so how many guards? And he finally flips and says, no more than 12. I'm like, yeah!
The thing about Serkis is like, I mean, when we first meet him, he is authoritative and he is like a hard ass, but like you learn because like that is the best way to run his shift in a non-antagonistical way. But also you said it, but he is one of the boys. Every time something bad is happening, he is there with Olaf in a second. Anytime something's like, hey, you come to me, I'll solve the problem. Like, he is secretly a boy because he is a boy. He is not in charge. He just has to act like he's in charge.
Well, and he's bought into the system. He's like, you just get through this, you get to the other end, and it's done.
We make this as easy as we
just
can.
Try and get through it day by day, and then eventually the sentence is over and you're fine. It is the fact that he finds out they killed the men, and they killed the men because what they all learned is we're never leaving.
No one's leaving.
And his willingness to play with the system falls apart.
That's what he says to Olaf when he's dying. Like, hey, you can't do this. You're almost out. You get like 12 more cycles. You got only 40.
He's nearly done.
You gotta let him live. He's nearly done. The line at the end of that episode, which is not no more than 12, is never more than 12, is an incredible line to end an episode. I had chills.
Yeah,
quite frankly, I had chills.
Yeah, it was very. I was like, I gotta wait a week now. That sucks. It's a good episode. Yeah.
Like when I got to when he said no more than 12, I'm like, next episode.
Yeah.
It's nice to have them as because like I'm still doing it as like chunks. Like I want to watch the whole arc as one thing because I want to. I don't want to get to never more than 12 and be like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
I really, really like his character. I think his arc is very, very good. The way that they do his standing in the control room, and you have to be the one to tell them. You have to be the guy. And he's too panicked and he can't think of it. And he thinks of what Andor said to him to convince him.
Yep.
And he just repeats those lines. And I think that's really, it's important for a lot of reasons. It's important for Kino's character because of what it says about like how he's come up. But it also is like, Andor, your words did this, even though Kino's the one saying them. These are your words.
He's inspiring left and right.
It's going to change his relationship with this idea of what is possible.
Yeah.
And I think that's really cool. There's nothing more tragic to me than when they get to the end and Kino is like, I can't swim.
He knew the whole time.
Yeah.
He knew the whole time. He says from the beginning, I'm going to assume I'm dead before we even start any of this. He knew he couldn't swim. Just 5,000 guys. You can't get one guy to help you out, Kino. Come on, Kino.
You broke my heart all over again. I watched this at 2 a.m. last night. My heart broke when I said I can't swim.
Well, and the implication is that like Andor was gonna try and find a way to help him, but then he
gets pushed off. Oh my god! Oh no!
And once he's in the water, he can't get back up. There's nothing he can do. He just has to go.
And we're never seeing Kino Loy ever again. We do not know his fate. That's what's brilliant about this show. We are never going to see him show up on shore. Oh, I made it. Good job for me. Oh, it's Snoke people. Like none of that shit's going to happen, right? Like his fate is for history, and that is awesome. It is so sad. It is it's beautiful.
I'm not gonna lie. When they got to the port where the ship comes in to drop them off, and they started jumping, I'm like, they're not killing themselves, are they? It was like, okay, cool, they're swimming. I didn't realize how far it was because when the guy said, "What?" He goes, "One way out," and he just jumps. I was like,
I'm sure on some level there was a hope, just like the tiniest nugget of hope, right? That like he knows it's unlikely, but like maybe there will be a ship.
Yeah,
maybe we'll have it all got it at the right time, and there will be a ship.
Yeah,
but no.
That can hold like 20 people.
But it could get him. Yeah. At least he could get out.
Yeah. If so anything, it's more tragic that he helped make this happen, and then he's the one who has
because it's him paralleling Luthen.
Yeah.
In a smaller way, right? It's him being like, I did this.
Yeah.
I knew it wasn't going to help me.
I have a son,
but I made a better future for a bunch of other people because I made sure people got out.
He just helped make 5,000 rebels. Is what he did.
Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly.
And he even helped push Andor. What we're seeing again, another person has pushed Andor closer to where he becomes, or to the rebel that we know he becomes.
It's Andor's line, but the one that Kino repeats of I'd rather die fighting than give them what they want.
Yeah,
and that you're oh my god, I can't with this show because my brain is moving at a mile a minute of that's the theme of Rogue One. That's what Andor said. That's the reason why Andor sacrifices himself at the end of Rogue One. I'd rather die fighting. And so we're seeing Andor doesn't know, it's not quite clicking for him quite yet that he's we see it in his face when he's saying this, that when Kino is saying these lines of he doesn't quite understand why is Kino saying why is Luthen repeat Kino? Sorry, they're very similar. Why is Kino saying what I said to him? You're the one to rally, but he doesn't realize yet, and I'm sure he will, and I'm sure he might. Maybe it's the next episode or the episode after that. He is the one that has inspired Kino, just like he inspired his mother. It's just when I get like this is so good because we do these fake nerds watches for so many shows where I can accurately say what I feel about a show, what I feel about a movie, what I think about whatever, and I say these things and I'm so thoughtful about them. But there are some times, which is why I'm glad now we didn't do Peacemaker as a fake nerds watch, but there are times where I just sit there and I am just. And my mind is going a mile a minute because I cannot get the thoughts out of my head quick enough because the show is so good that it makes me think so fast. And I just kind of sit there stunned by how much I love a thing. And it's such a great place to be in. And I'm so ecstatic to be there with this show. I never thought I would be.
And just imagine if you're one of those people oh, I'm boycotting Star Wars. I'm not watching the next Star Wars thing.
Idiots.
You're missing this.
It's important to highlight too, I think, as you were talking, because I was thinking about this, that this is still the spirit of the original Star Wars trilogy. This is the spirit of it. These are decisions, these people like Andor, people like Kino, people like Luthen, who are willing to give it all for the future. That is also our heroes in Star Wars in the original trilogy. They just happen to not die. Yeah. They don't have to make that sacrifice. They're able to get through everything. But think about the beginning of Hoth when Leia refuses to leave the base in Empire Strikes Back because she wants to make sure all the other ships have their trajectory to get clear first. Mm-hmm. That's the same decision. She happens to live through that because Han is still there with the Falcon. Otherwise, she would have been dead. Mm-hmm. But they're the same spiritual people. Luke goes after the Death Star when most of the rest of the squadron that went with him has already been shot down. He knows it could be a suicide. Yeah.
Again, the line that Mon Mothma says, many Bothans died to get this information. This is the show about the Bothans.
Yeah, and so I just think that's so great because it is truly in spirit with those characters. Those characters just happen to live, so they continue to be our heroes through that. Mm-hmm. Andor's our hero through this now up until the point where he dies in Rogue One, but he's also living that life. He's living this mission, and I think that they capture that heart of it so well.
I just thought of something. His name's Cassian Andor. He doesn't go by Cassian Andor this entire show. He goes by other people's names until he becomes who he's supposed to be.
That's a good point.
He's Clem, and then he's Keith Gilgo. But now, like once he's a rebel, he's gonna be no. My name's Cassian Andor. Come for me, Imperials. And I'm like, oh, that's when you know you're a rebel, baby. Cassian Andor.
You're right about Kino being like Luthen, because he's the one who's making the sacrifice to play to give everyone a better future, and you just kind of have to like hope that maybe Kino had like he stayed on he was there. And then the rebellion happened and the Empire fell. And then they were like, hey, let's free all the prisoners. And Kino was still there and he lived happily ever after. But that's not a guarantee. That's just kind of something that you think about when Cassian is pushed off the side, is pushed off the side of that prison and leaving Kino, knowing that he will never see that person again. But it was such, and it also speaks to how influential people could be in your life for being in them for so little of a time. Because Kino was only in Cassian's life for so long, and yet he is just another person on the step turning Cassian into the rebel that we know he is. And it was an important person. There are no small people in Cassian's life. It is just one important person after the next, pushing him to becoming who he needs to be.
Yeah,
even to that extent, Olaf, the having him die on them and having tried to like soldier him through it. His death also, importantly, the thing that catalyzes them towards the information they need to escape.
In a negative way, also going back to the previous arc, Skeen stood for nothing. He was out for himself.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And Andor was like, oh, I don't want to be you. And Skeen was like, your trajectory is my trajectory. Like, and he's like, oh, that's a bad life to live. So he gets rid of that. So like, he's eliminating all of the factors. Like he's a rebel. That is his life trajectory without him even knowing it. And it's just beautiful. Like every episode gets closer and closer to where we know him to be the same person he's always been, but now like on the right side of the law.
And there's a world where you can say that this feels forced. That there's a world where the story, bad word choice, where the story could have been a forced story of like, oh, we're just padding for time. We're just kind of saving time because we have to have him be a rebel at the end of the season, or we made that decision. But they didn't, but it doesn't, and it's very well written in that aspect, because you have people who have written for TV before, who know how a TV show is supposed to work, and who know how a character arc is supposed to be written, and so you're getting what is essentially an exceptional character arc. Seeing this guy at every turn decide not to be a rebel. Like, quite frankly, he has every turning point that he could have become a rebel, he went the opposite way, because he doesn't want to be. He doesn't want to go down that path. He doesn't want to be that person. But life is forcing him to that person. He keeps fighting it. And there is a lesser story that could have been forced. And I'm so grateful that we live in not that world, where we live in a world where this is such a well-written story that it feels like a natural progression of his character arc, and almost kind of tragic in a way, because you keep wanting to yell at the screen, no, go the other way, be the rebel.
Sparkz was right earlier in your discussion. Like, there is another world where this is a 6-hour miniseries where it's the K2SO adventures, and it's just him having goof times. Maybe, ran into Vader, crazy, right? And then he meets up with the rebellion. That is another world that other people do live in. Unfortunately, we don't live in that world. Luckily, we had to suffer through other shows to get Andor, so it's reverse. But like, I'm thrilled to be here. Like, I could not have expected it. One of my favorite characters on TV is a little boy dominatrix fascist who just wants mommy to step on him. I can't believe that's the world we live in.
We haven't talked about him yet.
Cyril Karn, the cereal man.
Cyril is we've talked about it in the first episode, how we were like, oh, we can see how this event on Ferrix radicalized people, and we can see that Cyril could become. The next time we see Cyril, he's an Imperial. Next time we see him, he's very sad, living with his mother on Coruscant, eating some cereal.
The moment we got to the first appearance of
my investment
of Karn's mom, Megan was like, "Oh, Jewish moms exist in Star Wars."
Yeah.
Oh my god!
The amount of time that this show is allowing us to spend in his sad mom's apartment is unbelievable. And how, even though we're spending so much time with just these two people, I'm learning so much about both of them. I'm
Yeah.
learning so much about the world, how Uncle Harlow, like, I hope we never meet Uncle Harlow. I hope he's just a name that you have to live up to all the time. I love it. Him having to work for a fuel depot to like, he'll take any job, no matter what it is, just to get into the Imperial's base.
God, his tie.
Little fun tie.
I love his tie.
What I really like about the bureaucracy of the job he ends up in is that it shows you that, like, if your job isn't sexy in the Empire, your job sucks. Like, everywhere. If it's not sexy, it's bad.
And boring.
Like that's really all it is. There's no in between. Your job is either really cool or it's awful.
You torture or you sit at a computer 8 hours a day.
The first scene between Deirdre and Cyril is when they're in the interrogation room is brilliant, and I love Cyril's like died in the womb, like I am Imperial all the way. I just wanted to serve justice, and he's like, I never read the report because da da da. And as he gives the reports, they left all this stuff out about how Cassian Andor is like this rebel leader, and he's got Cassian all wrong, and he's so determined to think that Cassian is like the rebel. It's so funny to me.
And it's important to note that, like, this is him seeing what he wants to see, right? This is him taking his own ideology and applying it, because who screwed him over? The Empire.
Yeah.
Who didn't let him read the report?
Yeah.
Who shut down his ambitions? The Empire.
And he
did.
still comes back.
But he puts it on Andor. He
Mhm.
puts it on him as being the responsible for his woes.
He's a bootlicker.
The system did him wrong.
But he doesn't
and
see
the fact
that.
that like you have that, it's right there. It's very clear that like the Empire is the one who made his life bad, not Cassian.
Like he
is so smart especially because like it's coming from the angle of like he didn't start in the Empire, and I'm so glad that that's where we were with him. He started working under the Empire, but for a different authority.
He was a security guard,
right? And like, but that's important because like the Empire hadn't branched out to take full control. Now they are saying like we're taking full control everywhere in the system. It'll all be Imperial enforced. Congratulations on that. But he believed in that greater system. You know, this is very much the like the people who will support like the really awful ideologies that exist in our country right now. They don't get that those same ideologies are punishing them, stepping on them to get to their power.
100%.
And he's exactly not seeing that. He's exactly representing that idea where he puts the blame where the Empire tells him he should really put the blame, as they are putting him down in the ground.
Yeah. Ben, you were going to say something?
No, I was just gonna say how Cyril is just so unbelievably whipped by the Empire that
By Deidre.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he is like that dude is falling head over heels for Deidre. That's, I mean, the second she showed up and started talking, you could tell he's like, "Hello,
Dude." The
She's
line,
like, I see a kindred spirit in you, or whatever.
no, the line that's the most troubling is, first of all, he's a stalker and he's stalking this woman. So like the fact that it's happening to Imperial is like, it's still bad. He's still doing gross shit. But he says, I found life and meaning through you. You gave me a purpose to live, and that justice still existed and beauty still existed in the galaxy. The last time they talked, it was an interrogation. This is how delusional this man is.
Because she comes to him as a pure representation of the Empire at its finest,
and
to
he gets
his mind.
And he gets so hard. Oh my God.
She's going to end up on the same path as him. I'm almost certain she's going to end up also buried by the Empire.
Yeah. Because she's too good at her job.
And that's the thing, is like they believe so wholeheartedly in this thing that is ultimately going to destroy them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. You were saying something, Ben. I'm so sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying that part of me, I don't know, like when he stays outside of the ISB building just to try and see her come in, I was just like, oh, dude, you were just such a creeper, but you were also so whipped. It is just uncomfortable throughout the entire time that they're talking. And even when she goes into her office, you can see how uncomfortable she is. It's like,
this scene is important because we've never seen something like this in a Star Wars thing before, or really maybe like a Disney Plus thing yet. Like how disgusting and uncomfortable like the situation is, and as we're following bad people doing it. Like it is just layers and layers of horrible things happening, but we can't stop watching it.
I think
it's so fascinating.
I think what I really like about what they're doing there with Cyril and Deirdre is that, you know, we've had hints before through Mandalorian a lot of the there being people who were in the Empire who, you know, were just people, and, you know, that they got punished by the system, and you know, or like I'm thinking of like Bill Burr's character who talks about you know, the absolute annihilation that the Empire does, and that kind of thing. But like at the same time, while I think it would be nice, or it still could be, to have a character who's like, you know, just a person working in the Empire, there's an amount to be empathetic for a person who's trapped in the system like that. Even as you could have that, I think what's better is to have these people who, like, you kind of have to just pity them. There's an empathy of pity for them, because they don't see that they're being hurt by the system, but they are being hurt by the system, and you are engaging with that material and recognizing that the system is destroying them. But you know, they're still giving everything they can to the system, so they're still acting with the wrath of it.
Oh God, I 100% see what you're saying. I think with this exact show that they're doing, they don't want to give any sympathies to the Empire.
Right.
I think that would be a juicier bet, like a juicy show. I think specifically, and not that they couldn't do it, I think they don't want to take away the focus of the rebellion. But
it's important to have that idea of being able to see the path of, like, not relatability, but at least like a clear pity for like where they are.
Yeah.
Because it keeps them from being like just the bad guys.
I think at this point, we're so many years in the Empire, they weeded out everyone who's not on their side.
I think that's certainly in higher offices. Like, I'm thinking, like, you know, probably ground level. We're
not saying too much of that, though.
You know, like, because you get like the guys who I think you did get like a little glimpse of it with like the guys who are stationed where the eye happens, and they're like, sir, you know, we're only here for a matter of years, and well, we'd really like to see the eye.
Yeah.
The eye is the most incredible thing.
I mean,
we've been
Dr. Gorgs is nice too, and he's a fat.
So you get my point being like that. You get the idea of these guys who are just like, you know, they're working for the system. They're working the jobs that they have to. You know, there's an amount of the janitor on the Death Star kind of level of like, what else were they going to be able to do with their means and their capability? I'm not saying that the show should focus on them, but what I am saying is that I'm glad that there is an avenue of Cyril and Deirdre where you can see the relatable pity for their position, because it keeps them from being just the bad guys and that being the only stopper on the conversation. Like, they are just evil people. They are not just evil people. They are people who are so convinced of an ideology they can't see when it's hurting them. And I think that leaves open at least this way for them to be still more human, more complex, in a way that like previous entries with the Empire, like the original trilogy, that kind of thing, were not able to do.
Yes. Maybe not after the Terror Children episode where they give Bix that helmet that causes her massive discomfort.
That was so...
Maybe Deidre is not redeemable after that one.
That was so smart. I'm not saying
No.
like,
No, yeah.
Well, I don't think there's any redeemable people that we're following any irredeemable people here. I want to speak. I really want to speak on that children thing, but I want to say real quickly about the Empire. What's so interesting about the Empire is that it's not really operated like an Empire. It's operated like the Sith. Like the Empire is run by the Sith, and therefore it is operated like the Sith. So if you cross Palpatine, you're dead. If you cross Vader, you're dead. If you cross this person, you're dead. There's no demotions, there's no anything like that. If you kiss ass, and you do your best to just be the best fascist you can be, you maybe will get promoted. But most of the time, you're probably going to die, because Palpatine doesn't look at these people like people. He looks at them like he looks at the Senate, disposable. These are people. I am keeping the galaxy in control because I want the power, not because I want to control the people. I want the power of that control. I don't give a shit about anybody else but that power. And we see that at all levels of the Empire. We always have. Every single time we see the Empire in every single Star Wars media, it's always the same way. We get the tried and true fascists like Tarkin, who's just like, who kills anybody, who's like, oops, Mendo tripped on Scarif and blew up. Oopsie. Like, he doesn't give a shit about anybody. And so like that's why no matter what, that's what Sparkz is that's what I think Sparkz is trying is talking about. Like, no matter what, there will be always this kind of sympathy for the people in the Empire, because no matter how what level of fascist you are, what level of tried and true Imperial like bootlicker, like I'm sucking Palpatine's dick. and I'm still going to die. Like, no matter what, everybody in the Empire has a death sentence, every single one of them. They will always be screwed by the system because the system is only there to give Palpatine more and more power. And if you're not Palpatine, you're expendable.
And it's super sad because you have the two people, like you have the people who see the Empire for what it is, and like, all right, I love power, give me more power. Then you have the other people who are like, they're the ones in charge. Hopefully they'll do the right thing, and I'll be there with them for it. Those are both like that's real bad in both situations.
Because there's almost an argument where like if you could just be like, oh, I own this shop on this backwater planet in like the Outer Rim, and as long as you keep to your business and keep your records clean, like odds are you'll never have trouble under the Empire. Joining the Empire, probably going to have a life of suck. Like you kind of roll the dice on that one, and I think like more and more like what will be really interesting. And what I hope we get to is the point where I really hope we meet the I forget his name, but the character in Rogue One who's the former Imperial pilot.
Bodhi.
Who gets them the information about Galen. I hope we get to him because I don't think that they should do it with anyone else. But like, there should be an arc in here of a person who kind of goes, "I think the Empire's wrong."
Yeah.
And is like, it's time for me to like fully step out of it.
So Tony Gilroy doing a lot of interviews recently. They were before the show came out. Sorry, the writing process. They were like, "So how did you decide on Andor?" And he's like, "Honestly, I love all the characters in Rogue One. This was going to be a Bodhi show. This was going to be a Melfi show. This was going to be a blah, blah, blah. We decided on Andor." So he threw out Bodhi specifically. I got a feeling Bodhi will show up.
I do too.
Yeah.
I think we definitely get to him before.
Isn't that Lonnie though? Like, isn't the character you're talking about Lonnie to an extent? Because we meet that Lonnie is a double for Luthen.
But Lonnie was planted into the Empire by Luthen. He wasn't a person who joined and then was in it and went, I think this is wrong.
Mm-hmm.
That's not his mentality. He was put into already not like the Empire, but to rise through.
Let's talk about that scene
as Luthen's tool, and that's a different perspective.
Yeah, that is an incredible scene.
That was my subtle way of being like, we should talk about Lonnie now.
Oh yeah,
sure.
So we see who's arguably the most Imperial looking man on the council, right? Straight up, just porn mustache, slick back like side hair. I'm like, all right, Mr. Imperial,
gotta play the part.
And then we see him on some gross looking planet, and I'm like, what's going on here, Lonnie?
No, it's the lower levels of Coruscant.
Okay, yeah, it's a 1313. Yeah, it just looks like another planet because it's so gross. Immediately puts on a thing, and I'm like, oh, you're the 1 year later guy. Oh, you're the 1 year later guy. And then Luthen's like, so you have a kid. This is not threatening at all, I promise. And I'm like, damn, we're starting like that, Luthen? And that's when I knew, like, oh, man, this is about to be a rough conversation. Oh, man. And it was probably the juiciest conversation we've had in this show so far. Well, at least one of them.
Well, they give up. We never see this man. Keegan?
Krieger, who's just another separatist leader guy.
We never see him. But we've mentioned him before. We saw, he says to Saw, I want you to go help this guy. No. Okay, no deal. Quick,
at Spellhaus, spelled Haus, so it's like a German Spellhaus, like it's a magical factory. I'm like, that's so cool. That's so cool.
And then we find out that someone that the Empire know that they have a ship that's supposed to go to him. And now Luthen is being told that, and instead of warning them, is like, no, keep him. That's fine. We can lose this guy.
We will lose our 50 men because if we don't, they'll know someone's a spy.
And you're worth more than 50 men, Lonnie.
Yeah,
you're a hero to the rebellion, and Lonnie cannot handle.
Really
that.
Importantly, because you brought it up, I do want to touch on the Krieger thing. When we went to the Saul scene, what I think was so good, we talked about this with Saul, where he's not willing to play the game.
He's the only person who sees things clearly.
He says, I won't work with Krieger. Krieger's a former separatist, which isn't so much about his ideology, but he says he runs down the list of everybody who opposed the Republic. And he says, like, all of them failed.
They're all
of them are lost. All of them are gone. None of them did it right. He believes that there is no right way to unify against higher power.
And he mentions, so we get a list early on from Luthen or from Cassian, like the Gorm Republic, the Gorm Alliance, the Blank Front, all these different names. And he goes even further. He says separatist, cultist, like all these crazy things that I'm like, man, that sounds like a bunch of different people do have to join a rebellion. Like all these different factions, and I'm like, there's more than you even know, Saw. Oh,
which I also think is really nice because you do get some of it in other places in Star Wars, but like the notion that like not all of the separatists were bad guys either, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like a lot of them, what they were fighting for is the fact that, as we know, the Republic didn't really do what it needed to do with the resources and aid that it needed to give to planets in the Outer Rim. That's how the Separatist movement starts.
Don't forget, Saw Gerrera's sister was killed by Separatists on Geonosis. So he has a thing against Separatists no matter what faction they're a part of.
Yeah, I mean, we often forget that Dooku was right. Like, Dooku went about it the wrong way, but he was right. He
worked for the wrong guy.
He worked for the wrong guy, but he was right. There was a problem in the Republic, and the Jedi weren't doing what they were supposed to, and the Republic wasn't doing what they were supposed to. And so Saw still has that prejudice against Separatists, as he should, because, as Ryan said, his sister was killed by a Separatist. He also has no love for the Republic and now the Empire because because of what happened in the Clone Wars.
He doesn't like who's in charge.
You bring up a great point, because Dooku believed he was the Luthen in that scenario.
Yes, he did.
He truly believed that. He believed that what they were doing was, the dirty deeds that needed to be done for real change to come to the people who neneeded it throughout the galaxy.
He just chose the wrong leader.
Yes, he fell for Sidious's lie.
It's not until Palpatine tells Anakin to kill Dooku that he really realizes what he had done.
Well, his head's about to be cut off. Like, whoa!
Yeah. Because he has that moment. He has that moment in Revenge of the Sith where he realizes, like, this was never about protecting people.
This was always about you. In that moment, yes, you're right. Like, it's one of the best things. Like, Christopher Lee is a very good actor, and like the face he gives in that, like, that kind of pain, like, all of this was my whole life with you was for nothing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Is that he knows in that moment none of the Separatists will get what they want.
Yep.
None of this is going to go the way that we were promised.
Oopsies.
If only Qui-Gon hadn't died.
Yeah. Real quick, the last on Lonnie, like, great performance from that guy.
Yeah.
Like he is a father. I want to. Oh, my wife's got a little shop I can work at. Like, do you as you say it, they're not going to let you leave.
Yeah.
Give me a break. Like Lonnie again. Like, Lonnie, you're a hero of the Republic. You should be happy about this. And like, I'm about to get 50 men killed. I don't feel very heroic right now. He arguably not a bigger hero than Luthen for what Luthen's doing, but to be in the Empire alone for 6 years, potentially married an Imperial and had a kid, like again, we don't know that situation. He's got a new kid, but again, that could be a situation through Imperial means, right? His entire life has been ruled by this rebellion, and he just wants out to raise a family, and you cannot escape. Whether you're on the side of good or side of bad, you are in this for the long run.
I really like when Luthen repeats the line of, like, I wasn't, because he says earlier in the conversation when he's in the elevator that I think about you all the time, Lonnie, and he's like, I really mean that. I think about you all the time. I think about what I'm putting you through.
Because he's doing it to himself.
Necessary. Yeah. He does such a great job of, like, I sacrifice everything.
Theory corner. This is the first only real theory I've told this to you before. Luthen had a kyber crystal. Luthen has been seen not as often as I think, but he's been seen with a cane. People think he's an ex-Jedi in hiding. Would you be okay if that was true or not?
At this point, no, I don't think I would.
Yeah.
And like, if they did it, I would be happy with it. I like the show. I'm sure it'd be well written. But as it stands right now, I'm kind of like, I like the idea that, like, we talked about, going back to that Dooku thing, because I really like talking about that real quick. Like the idea that, like, the Jedi failed. Mm-hmm. And so, like, Luthen and, like, Dooku knew that the Jedi were failing and knew that the Jedi were wrong. And so kind of like seeing like a Jedi kind of in that kind of doing these things, it almost kind of feels like a little too much to kind of be like, oh, this is a former Jedi. So, and like, we have to do the Order 66 thing again. We have to do like the as it stands, I think I'm okay with Luthen just being this shot person as he is.
It is not absolutely like in stone. It's just there are some fun pieces. I wish I thought of this, but somebody brought it up, like, Emperor Palpatine created his own Emperor Palpatine. Because what is Luthen doing? He's a man who wears a wig, and he goes and gives a false face for a rebellion that nobody knows about. He is his own Phantom Menace, right? And I agree. Like, again, in a worse show, Order 66 stuff would resurface. But him being someone who failed, and now he can't save the Jedi like the way that he used to be. He can do it in other means through he can't be a Jedi, but he can be a Sith in a way. You know what I mean? Not actually be a Sith, but use evil means. I think it would be just a. And they don't even have to show him having a lightsaber. But I think an ex-Jedi doing all of this for the people that he damned himself, I think would be really, really compelling. But again, the writing would have to be there for it.
I think what I'm confident of one way or another is whether he is a Jedi or he was very close to a Jedi, which I think might be the route. That
I think the Kyber crystal is not nothing.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
I agree. I think the Kyber crystal is not nothing, and I think that what it might be is that he either loved one, or he was very dear friends with one, or was related to one. And happened to know that, like, if it was a sister or something, he happened to be able to know that they were there and they were a Jedi and everything. And I think that the key to that is that he knew when Palpatine did what he did that it was wrong.
He said 15 years.
He was lying.
He said,
He knew he was lying.
It's a long time.
He said the Jedi did this. He knew it was a lie.
Yeah.
I think that's the important thing, is whether he was part of the Jedi or he was close to a Jedi, he knew it was a lie, and from that moment he was like, this is wrong and I will work against
because if he's 15 years is longer than the rebellion. So like he's been there from the get-go.
I would be very into the idea that he either knew or loved the Jedi.
Yeah, I think that's a clear path.
Yeah.
But I do think that the important part about it, and the important part of the Kyber crystal, and the important part of him saying 15 years ago, is that the moment that it happened, he knew it was wrong.
Yeah.
He was a person who knew and had means to say, I will not let this stand. I will not let this empire succeed. Because he knew from the jump it was wrong.
Just a fun little thing to think about.
It would just be hard to believe that a Jedi could live on Coruscant for this long without somebody finding out, you know?
I mean, if he's hiding his powers, like, that's one of those things where, like, again, like, I don't need this to happen, but it's just like, he can suppress his powers. He's just been, he's been an art dealer. No one goes to think
I
an art dealer.
I will put it this way. I do think there is the path where he could be a Jedi. What I think works against it is that Luthen feels like a person who would have given it all in the moment. You would have.
Well, he says he's a coward. He says he's a coward, and that's why I believe he still has not done what he thinks he actually needs to do.
Perhaps, yeah.
I think that was another big thing for me. Is like when Saul asked him, "Who are you?" He says, "I'm a coward. Like I have the means to do more, but I actually can't." But that's again, that's really into it.
I think either way, I have full trust that the Luthen story will be told in a way that is utterly satisfying.
Absolutely.
I'm not worried about it. I do think we'll find out the meaning of that Kyber crystal.
Yeah.
If they decide that he was a former Jedi, I am sure that story will be told well. If they decide that he knew a Jedi, I'm sure that story will be told well.
Absolutely.
I do think it is key to why he is doing what he's doing. I do think that the Kyber crystal and the relationship to the Jedi in some form is an important part of why Luthen is who he is. I think that is the spirit of who the Jedi were, kind of living through the birth of the rebellion. I do think is embodied through Luthen.
Yeah,
sure.
I have so much faith in this writing team that whatever they decide to do with Luthen, I know it's going to end up being amazing.
And we know he's not in Rogue One, so like this fool's probably going out in a blaze of glory for the rebellion. And I'm just
probably.
Oh man, I'm gonna cry so hard, aren't I? Oh
You know the way the show is going, I can 100% see that his blaze of glory is this: his shop gets blown up from a terrorist attack on Coruscant, and his shop is destroyed, and he's dead, and like that's just it.
Oh,
that's
you
just
mean
how
Cyril Karn, the Imperial terrorist, who's gonna start working for Miro under the guys?
Right? Like I'm at a point now where I'm enjoying the hell out of the show, and I don't want to speculate too much, but like I can see the way the show goes, like anything is possible. That Luthen could be dead off screen. Oh, we just heard about this, and like that would be a story that that I could believe the show could do.
Yeah. With everything that we've been given, I fully believe that Cyril Karn and Luthen are gonna meet, and it's gonna be bad because he heard his voice. And he's gonna somehow he is going to end up in that art shop and hear his voice.
That's the second time. Yeah, that's the second time that we have been put to the point that Cyril would be able to recognize Luthen's voice.
Yeah, whether she goes to visit, whether he and Deirdre go to visit him for some reason, or they're in some shop together, whatever it is, he will hear Luthen's voice, and Luthen and Cyril will go crazy, and something bad will happen immediately.
I do want to point out, I'm really pleased with the arc of Luthen. Again, talking about like the predictability of the show. When we were watching the trailers, I assumed Luthen was a senator, or at least in a place similar to a senator. The fact that he ends up being this like art historical shopkeeper, brilliant.
Yeah,
like a brilliant path to go down.
And he has ties to history.
So I wasn't here for the last one, so I do want to note that I really love the use of carbonite freezing to maintain historical artifacts. I think that's awesome. The fact that we're not just using it for bodies, we also use it to preserve relics.
Makes sense.
Super cool.
It belongs in a space museum.
At this point, they haven't used carbonite freezing for people yet.
That's true.
Oh,
they
yeah, it
haven't.
hasn't been tested on Han Solo yet.
And then they'll do it all the time forever.
Then that'll be Boba Fett was so hot on it. He's like, "Hey guys," just tell all his bounty hunter friends, "Hey guys, let's freeze our people in carbonite all the time."
Yeah. There's a bunch of side characters that we haven't. Not a bunch, but there's a couple. We got Vel. So Cinta is on Ferrix, just hunting down Cassian. So she's doing her own thing. Vel, cousin to Mon Mothma.
The love story between her and Cinta, by the way, very good.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I was shocked when my mom said, "Oh, my cousin's here. Oh, your cousin, cool." Vel?
I definitely thought she was going to be a Luthen relation, not a rich girl relation.
I thought she was Luthen's daughter.
Yeah. Blonde peoples. Yeah.
I mean, I guess she could still be. Mon Mothma could be related.
I don't think so. At this point, no. But it is interesting that, like, okay, so we know Vel's history. Like, she's not like some scrappy rebellion lady. Like, she's also rich like Mon Mothma. And Mom's even like, can you try being a rich girl for a change instead of blowing up buildings?
Well, no. I don't think that's how it was. I don't think that's how it was. I think she says to Vel, almost kind of like Batman, "Hey, go be Bruce Wayne for a minute."
Yes.
Yeah.
It's
Because-
very much like your lay low is go be rich.
Yeah.
Go be rich. Enjoy being rich. You need to lay low.
Yeah.
You need people to stop looking for you, because
Good
if you keep doing this, you're going to be found out.
Go drink some
Yeah.
squid.
Good job in Aldani. I need to highlight the fashion is all so wonderful throughout this whole show.
God.
The sets are incredible. The design of all the different rooms we get in Coruscant, going back to the Senate sparingly, super nice. Really, just love seeing it this way. Is so good.
And it's sad because it's like barren.
Yes, or like the way that people are checking out entirely and that kind of thing. The design of the prison, so well thought out, so well brought to life.
Every single scene, every single set, like there was no half-assing it. Like even like in the smallest scene in the smallest bathroom, they went all out on that bathroom. Like there is not a detail, there's not a rock unturned in the show. And you know it's a real rock and not a CGI.
Is this the first time we've seen a bathroom in Star Wars?
Probably.
Like a toilet?
Yeah, space toilet. Yeah.
Interesting.
This is also a very.
I want to say we maybe saw one in Mandalorian, but that's
This
I
is
don't know
also
why.
We did. There's a bathroom on the Razor Crest.
There you go. This is also a much more. This is not a complaint. A much more grounded show in terms of them just using more real world stuff, because in the I arc they just have AK-47s with a little space on them. Those are just AK-47s. Those do not look like laser guns, and I don't have a problem with it. But it's like, oh, that's an easy day on set.
Ryan brought up an excellent point that this very prison hallway behind us looks better and is better realized and more inviting than the very Star Wars hotel in Florida.
Y'all, there's a Twitter comparison. Y'all find it. Those rooms are nearly the same size and don't look as fun. It's kind of shitty.
I mean, when they were talking about
5,000 a night.
when they were talking about this, is like, hey, here's your plate, here's your spoon, here's your food, here's your water, and you do well, you get taste to it. Like, actually, that's kind of nice. You got everything you need right there. That's cool.
Keep you fattened up to keep the labor good.
Yeah, that's how they get you to be fine with it.
Yeah.
And you brought up the set design. Like, I love the fact that we are in real sets and real locations and big sets, not sets, not like we built a chair and then put the volume around it. Like, we built a set, and like I love seeing this. I love seeing sets.
One of my favorite sets is the impromptu Imperial court in episode 7 with on the beach planet.
Yeah.
Where they sentence Andor. That set is just so full of stuff and life and stuff going on. I thought that was so cool.
She's so high up too.
Yeah. They do a really great job with so much of the show. Visually it's just a feast.
We briefly hear it in episode 1 in the brothel, but we fully get it in this episode and in the beach episode. Star Wars' first pop song. It opens the scene where it's like and the music person on the show was like, we have, if you listen to Star Wars music, you got jizz. Jizz is all over the place in Star Wars. We wanted to create a pop version of jizz. I don't know if they have a name for it, but pop jizz now exists, and it's just like lo-fi hip hop to chill to. It's like they create Star Wars music.
Yeah, you go.
His mother says, "Stop looking for your sister."
Yes.
Which I thought was interesting because that was only the second time we've even had a reference to his sister since the first episode.
I'll tell you what, this is not a negative. I completely forgot that was even a plot point, and they're not doing anything with it. So I almost wish if you weren't going to do any, like, it's definitely season 2 stuff, but I don't feel like.
I don't know if it is season 2 stuff. I'll say I have a feeling it might be season 1 finale stuff.
Okay, sure.
And what I think it is I think it's being reserved as his final push.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever happened to her, the Empire did it.
Sure.
And I think that's going to be, whether I feel like it should be or not, I do think that will be the push.
Yeah,
that pushes him into the rebellion.
I've loved the show like 10 out of 10 every episode so far. So like, I'm sure they'll do it justice. It's just like that sister thing is like such an afterthought. It feels like I hope they can bring it in and make it make sense. Where it doesn't feel last minute.
I wonder if there's real quickly, Sparkz. I wonder if there's a level of we're anticipating a worse show, almost like I've kind of put this together, like, you know, you mentioning like Luthen being a Jedi or whatnot, like the idea that like I can't visualize that story. You're saying now is like, you know, there's a world where you don't want to see the sister, just drop the sister stuff, or how can it be resolved? Well, like what we're watching here is a really good show. Why are we so resistant to certain things? Because all of a sudden we're expecting like the worst outcome. Why aren't we expecting the best outcome? I find that so fascinating that we're almost kind of traumatized by Star Wars stories to be like, oh, this will be the one to break the best show.
Well, no, I mean, I do see what you're saying, and that is true, but I'm also just like, this is the second mention of something that's about to become a major plot point. So for me, obviously, like, it's probably going to be good, but that doesn't mean I shouldn't have this feeling. You know,
I think
I'm not saying you should. I just find it fascinating. That's all I'm saying.
I think the reason we're getting it, you know, in just brief mentions is like it because of what this show is. Like, there's not a good way to explore his sister stuff in the Aldani arc. There's not a good way to explore it in prison. But I think they are trying to keep it prescient on our minds because it is his catalyzing incident, because it is the thing he's doing when he kills those men, his first kills that leads to these events. And I do think it will come back around in some way, whether or not it is the thing that pushes him to the rebellion. We will eventually get the payoff on that.
Yeah.
And I think they just know, like, it has to happen at the right moment in time of the story they're telling.
Yeah.
And I feel like that'll land correctly whenever it is placed.
Word. I just when she said the line, "Oh, stop looking for your sister," I'm like, has he been looking for a sister? Like, that's just what I thought. Because like we've watched 2 arcs where he hasn't been looking for a sister.
Well, no,
that's all I mean.
Well, because the first arc is him looking for her.
Yeah.
That's what starts the stuff.
Yeah.
And he leaves,
the brothel.
and him leaving is him having to go do the job to get out.
You know what? It has been
him coming back.
It has been 9 episodes.
It's him coming back to Ferris
Yeah.
in episode 7, and that's where she says, "This whole thing started. You had to leave the planet and get this money.
Yeah.
Because you were looking for her.
I forgot.
Don't do that.
It has been almost 2 months now since that first. I remember. Yeah, he went to the brothel looking for a sister. It has been a long time. So no, it all tracks. You're right. No, we're all good. I've had to sit 2 incredible arcs that I completely forgot about the first episode. So, it'd be like that sometimes.
I'm so pleased with how well they've crafted this show. The prison being this place where, like, you know, we're not putting any walls up or anything. You better hop in that cell though, because like you will be gone.
Yep.
Oh man, we're gonna be smelling him all night. What a line.
I adore this show. I'm so happy it exists. I don't know if I have much more to add.
You've been silent for almost an hour. You want to say anything?
I don't know what else I have to say other than I absolutely love this show.
Do you have a favorite moment?
1, 2, 3, go.
Probably the one. I want to say when the one-way out scene. Because that scene, that entire scene got me hyped. But also even I want to say like Luthen's monologue to Lonnie, because when we see Lonnie, he's like the true Imperial snitch. Essentially, he's the one on the inside, and he's feeding all this information to Luthen and to get all this. To get a rebellion going. And when Luthen's like, what have you said? What have I sacrificed? I sacrificed literally everything. And the way he says it, it's like you feel the weight of his words. It's not him trying to be overly dramatic, not overly eccentric. It's like the way he delivers it is like, no, he truly has sacrificed everything.
Were you worried that Luthen was going to kill Lonnie at all? Did you have a feeling? I had a feeling before like the speech started. But I had a tense feeling the entire time.
I had it. You know what? If he did kill him, I wouldn't be surprised, because I thought there was a chance, there was a small sliver that Lonnie could have died. But the fact that Luthen keeps saying is like, no, I do think about you. I mean, I'm not just saying that to say it. I actually do think about you. I think you've been done a great job. And unfortunately, yeah, you've been alone. That sucks. But you gotta stay there.
I feel like if Lonnie would have pushed harder, saying I'm leaving no matter what, then Luther probably would have killed him.
Oh, totally.
You can't have a snitch out in the road.
Oh no, you can't.
Because like Luthen's that hard. But like I'm glad unfortunately Lonnie's too weak to say no. And he just has to go and be a fascist again for the rebels. And I'm like, man, they're gonna get found out one day.
You know, it's a rock and a hard place because neither side will protect him.
Yeah, 100%.
When it comes down to it, like he has to keep doing the job because neither side is going to save him.
Ooh, another question. That scene when they found the dead pilot that we rigged, everything's going according to plan. Lonnie's like, cool, we should investigate because that's what we would do. Deidre immediately leaves. Do you think she's suspicious of Lonnie, or she's just mad that he listened, that Pendergast listened to Lonnie?
I want to say she's mad.
I've heard people read it both ways.
I thought she was mad. That's how I took it.
Yeah, okay, yeah. I think she's just mad, but like she's really good at her job, and she's like, why would we be doing this even though it's the right thing to do? I saw that read online. Just want to throw it out there.
Yeah, I think she's just frustrated that someone else made a suggestion that was liked.
Yeah, I
that
agree,
made logical sense.
I agree because I don't think anyone's on the Lonnie yet at all.
What a brilliant villain Deidre is.
It's not I think the thing is because it wasn't even weird for him to suggest it.
No,
he was making a suggestion that my read was that it's like she should have thought of it.
Yeah.
No, because it is the thing that makes it, because her whole thing is that it has to be convincing.
Yes.
He thought of a way to make it more convincing.
Yeah.
Because it's not really warning the rebels.
No.
It's not going to save them. It is maybe delaying when Krieger would get there with enough time for him to tell Luthen.
Yeah.
But it's not giving them the signal. It is a very clear, like Pendergast is like, that makes perfect sense. We should do exactly what we would do in any other scenario.
I saw that read online. I just want to see your thoughts on it.
For sure.
Yeah.
You're right, Brandon. Deirdre is a brilliant created character. The punishment torture I want to go back to of the wailing children.
Oh my god.
Very effective, clearly. I wonder why they didn't use that on Leia.
Well, maybe they recently built the torture droids and were like, this is better.
I expected a torture droid. I was like, are we going to get a torture droid? Are we going to see what they really do? Because whatever they do, that doesn't work.
It was the same exact shot from A New Hope when the torture starts, the thing shuts, and then the feet move. And I'm like, that's Star Wars.
I really liked seeing. I really like how they frame it because I was like, you know, they were talking about this noise that these children make when they're dying, and we've recorded that. We made it our torture thing or whatever. I was really like, oh, what's this going to sound like? And I really, really appreciate the creative decision to make it completely silent and just be on her reaction throughout the whole time.
For sure, it's so much worse.
You're right. It's exactly what I was about to say. It is so much worse.
Yes,
your imagination is scarier than anything about that screen can
has to be. Yeah. Has to be.
And again, the acting, like unless the actor playing Bix gives off that horrifying scream, then like you don't know what's happening. But like she pulls it off, man, and I believe it. And then like afterwards, when she is like drooling, like almost like looks like she's dying, and it's like, so we're gonna have a conversation now, Bix. You and my pet Bix. Oh God, I love her and I hate her. Oh, I'm so excited for the future. One last fun. The show doesn't deserve doesn't need cameos or anything. But again, I brought it up earlier. Like, I think Thrawn, if Andor were a 3-season show, man, Thrawn would be the perfect character because Thrawn's entire species gets killed by the Empire, and then he joins them because he's smart and like he's fine with it. I'm like, that is so juicy and gross. Like Thrawn would thrive on a show like Andor, and like he's gonna show up on a lesser show. No offense to wherever he shows up, and I'm just like, man, this is the show I want Thrawn to show up on. God, that's just a fun dream though.
I'd like to see Thrawn in this because we know what he's doing at this point because he's in Rebels. Like we can see a path where he could intersect with Andor, maybe with Hera. Maybe Hera shows up next season and be like, hey, Cassian, why don't we go do a mission real quickly? And we're going to do all the political intrigue that's so juicy, but it's going to be with Hera and Thrawn.
It'll be the most intense episode of Rebels ever filmed.
Right.
And we'll be here for it.
I do want to spotlight some notes. This is specifically from episode 8. This is where we get a lot of the Mon Mothma discussion with some of the other senators and how they feel about the Empire, because this is when the Emperor is initiating the public order degree. Because this is in response to Aldhani. This is the thing meant to ramp up more protection. This is the thing that allows the prison sentence stuff to get out of control.
And unlimited listening.
And they talk about how the Emperor wants surveillance and prosecution without limit. And then Mon Mothma challenging the other senators, like, do you feel under threat? What is enough protection? Just so good.
This is after 9/11, the Patriot Act went into account, and that means they could surveillance and wiretap and do whatever you want for the safety of America. Sure, I get that. 100% what the Empire is doing. We just had a terrorist attack. We're going to now listen in on every conversation that we can without interruption. It's just what we get to do now. Thanks, rebels.
If you're not doing anything wrong, you have nothing to fear.
Oh my God. Talk about how when I was 15 years old and I'm like, I'm not doing anything wrong. Listen to me all you want. Like, bro, give up my rights. Why don't I? God, that was such a beautiful, I'm not doing anything wrong. They can listen to me all you want. You don't get it. You son of a bitch. I love it. It's so good. It's so good.
Yeah. I think that all that stuff is, that you're seeing, the way they feel about it, the way the law is getting passed in the Senate and how it will affect them. I thought all of that was done really well. And then you get to the people who are in the prison, and when they get there, when Cassian gets there, what are they saying on the outside about this? What are they saying about oh God, they don't know.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Question: how more of these do you have? Because I actually gotta get going.
Oh. I just want to touch on that they did a great job de-aging Saw Gerrera.
Yeah.
When he shows up, they did a really great job.
We're getting every form of Saw before. Look how slowly he's turning into a robot, man.
And I liked seeing. I had that in my notes also. I really liked seeing that pre robot Saw.
We get one really nice bit of lore background when we learn that Fiona Shaw's character was a past president, a daughter of Ferrix.
Yeah.
And that they want to do things for her to protect her and move her somewhere else, but she refuses.
Yeah.
Anything else? Those were in my notes that we didn't already talk about.
I'm not religious, but I'm #blessed that this show gets to exist. And we're getting another 12 episodes. And then I'm gonna rewatching Rogue One in 2 years is gonna be the greatest experience ever.
I think even the original trilogy is going to benefit from this full scope of the rebellion and the Empire.
Yeah.
I think watching it again, you're going to recontextualize so much of this as how we got here, this long path. I think that those films were already good, but just like the Clone Wars improves the prequels, this is going to even further improve the original trilogy.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree.
Oh yeah, definitely.
All right, shall we let Ben go then? All right. Okay, so that's Andor, guys. The Star Wars Andor. So stay tuned. Guess we'll be back after episode 12. So 2 more episodes until the season is over, and then we'll discuss those final 2 episodes. And I hope they're just as good. No reason to think they're not going to be. Yeah, I'm excited.
Yes.
Cool. So stay tuned for that. As far as Fake Nerds Watches goes, we were probably going to do Willow when that shows up. We're all pretty excited for Willow. So stay tuned for that series. By
the time this is up, our last House of the Dragon discussion has also come up on Fake Nerds Watch.
Hot D.
There you go. So check that out. And of course, like this video, subscribe to this channel. You can check out all sorts of shows on this channel, such as Basement Arcade. There are 2 new episodes of Basement Arcade that went up last week, by regards to when this is out. You guys did Elden Ring stuff.
We did.
Hours and hours condensed into an hour and a half. Hell yeah.
So check that out. Of course, there's also Basement Arcade Pause Mini, which is our video game discussion series. There is Animation Station and Fake Nerd Book Club, which you can find on this channel, of course. And of course, there is the Fake Nerd Podcast, the Mothership Show. All hail the Mothership Show, the Fake Nerd Podcast. I don't know why I decided to go that route, but you can check out that. Our latest episode that is up right now, you can check out is what's the damn movie? Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. We go live every Sunday, so check us out next week, this coming Sunday, where we're talking about Slumberland. Slumberland. Jason Momoa. We're probably talking about Jason Momoa's new film Slumberland on Netflix. So check out that. Again, like this video, subscribe to this channel. You want to check us out live on Sundays for the Fake Nerd Podcast, click the bell icon. You can do it. We know you can. We believe in you. Of course, we're on Fake Nerd Podcast on all the social medias, fakenerdguys@gmail.com. You can check out our TeePublic. You can check out our Patreon if you'd like to support us financially, all of which are linked below, or you can find them on our website at fakenerdpodcast.com. I'm at BT McLaurin on Instagram and Twitter. I also write for KaijuRamenmedia.com. I also write for AtomicGeekdom.com. I also write for ScreenRant.com. Ben.
You can find me on the internet at BenMagnet27, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. You can also find me writing for Old School Gamer Magazine, Fusion Gaming Magazine, and GoNintendo.com.
Sparkz.
You can find me working for that one way out at Sparkz Witty on Instagram and Twitter, SPARKZ Witty.
Ryan.
You can find me trying my best not to simp for the world's greatest fascist, DJ Miro, at DJ Tony Snark 616.
All right, guys. Once again, like this video, subscribe to this channel. Until next time I see us, stay fake nerds.